Most bankers aren't ready to help you until after their third cup of coffee. But with Central National Bank's after-hours service, you don't have to wait for the bank lobby to open to get help. You can contact us from 6 to 8:30 in the morning or from 5 to 10 in the evening, and we'll connect you to a real, live, local person who can answer questions and fix problems 7 days a week. Bank different. Bank Central. Central National Bank. Member FDIC.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Through the night, deep in the heart of Texas, the trailer park is nice and dark. Deep in the heart of Texas, Ted drinks his brew and he spits his chew. Deep in the heart of Texas, the TV blares but no one cares. Deep in the heart of Texas, here we go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Bois. This is a King of the Hill podcast. I am Mike, and that other man is Rusty. Yep, there he is. He is on location. On the news, they always say you're on assignment.
Yeah, I'm on assignment. We're here in the deep wilds of Durndal, Texas.
Sure.
We're out here by Lake Durndal. Just doing a little excavation out at the old quarry. There was rumored to be a old 1977 Chevelle dumped into the lake here, and they're about to get ready to pull it out. And we're gonna see if there's any Letterman jackets in the back of the back seat of this Chevelle.
It's just wasteful.
Absolutely. 77 Chevelle at that. That's a beautiful car.
No kidding. Yeah,
they said the license plate said Boom Hauer on it, so we're not sure.
So it could be anybody.
Yeah, it could be anybody. It could be anybody.
Sure. All right, man. We are season 4, episode 4, Little Horrors of Shop. This is a very good episode.
Oh, it's a great episode, and I guess we'll go ahead and start off with one fact. This is an artifact. This is I don't have very many artifacts for this one, but Little Horrors of Shop is a play on the Rick Moranis movie. I mean, I'm sure it was a play before Rick Moranis ever did it, but it's made popular by Rick Moranis. In the movie Little Shop of Horrors, where it's a plant, and his name is Seymour, and he just feeds this plant little drops of blood, and it's this carnivorous plant. He grows big and big and big. So that's the play here.
Yeah, it was actually a black and white movie back in the 50s, and Jack Nicholson was the one who played the guy who goes to the dentist.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. I'm gonna have to go watch that one.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. Jack Nicholson's like super young. So, all right, let's get into this sucker. We start at the Hill House. It is morning. We're in the kitchen. Hank's in there getting coffee. By the way, no bell, no yell. Hank is in there getting coffee. Peggy is grading papers feverishly. And we need to remember that this is still right after she's gotten out of the hospital. She's gotten her cast off, her full body cast, all of that stuff. So this is the next episode after that. So she's still this is the second episode after that. So she's still going through therapy, and there's still a lot of talk of her falling out of the plane and breaking her spine and all that kind of stuff as we go. All right, so she is going through there, and she is marking her papers, biology quizzes, and not one smiley face, she says. And we see that she's putting frowny faces on all these things. She says their grades are plummeting even faster than I did when I fell out of that airplane. Again,
there's the callback.
Any chance for her to mention this tragedy that happened to her, she's going to do it.
Which is like this amount of callbacks is like super, super rare for these kind of animated shows like this. It's super rare to have that many callbacks in a row about an incident that happened from the previous season.
It is.
It's every episode since she's fallen out of the plane, there's been some type of reference to Peggy being injured in a plane incident or jumping out of the airplane, whatever. So there's been a mention of it every episode since, which is I guess it's status quo for King of the Hill because they develop. You know what I mean? They do develop their characters.
Oh yeah,
in a
it's
way
character development, definitely.
A lot of animated shows don't. So,
you see this kind of thing on dramas, especially, but some comedies that have a lot of callbacks like this. Hank responds to her and says, "Peggy, remember the therapist said to go easy on your spine. You may want to shorten your backswing on those check marks." I don't know how far she's winding up to do this, but. Peggy says, "Hank, the best therapy for my back will be lifting my third straight substitute teacher of the year award above my head in triumph." We see Bobby come over to the kitchen table. He's eating his cereal. Whenever she says she's going to lift her trophy up, she like looks up and then goes because it still hurts. I'm assuming. She says, "Falling from that plane may have broken my spine, but it could not break my teaching bone, not even if one existed." Good job, Peggy.
Reminds me of that country song, the drinking bone's connected to the lonely bone or whatever how the song goes.
Sure.
That's all, yeah.
Bobby pipes up and says, "Mom, I think you're using I think you're marking the bio test with the wrong key." She goes, well, yeah, I'm not used to teaching so much non-Spanish. She goes, "Come on, Peggy Hill, rookie mistake, get it together." I don't have the bio answer key. "Bobby, find me a frog." And she just rolls up her sleeves, like she's gonna dissect.
Yeah, she's about to dissect a frog.
She's gonna dissect a damn frog right there in the kitchen.
It's such a weird thing. Yeah.
Oh God. You can't.
That's a different Peggy move.
It's not like you can go to
frog, Bobby.
It's not like you can go to the school and get the key or anything. All right, so now we're at Strickland with Hank. Hank is on the phone, and he's like, well, I would suggest that you bleed out the excess pressure in the bypass line because if you don't have, and then Mr. Strickland comes in, Buck comes in, he goes, "Is that a business call, Hank?" Not strictly, no, says Hank. So he's talking about bleeding out excess pressure to just a friend of his. Apparently on the phone. It's not even a business thing. That's just the craziest thing to me. Mr. Strickland says, "Hank, when was the last time you took a day off?" Hank says, "Well, I took a day off when Bobby was born, but I wasn't really sick. I meant to tell you, it slipped my mind."
His own son being born, like work is more important to Hank. Like he'd be caught dead. He'd rather be caught dead.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. He'd rather be caught dead than being caught late to work.
Absolutely. And he makes that reference here in just a second. He said, it just slipped my mind not to tell you. I did come in on that Saturday, though. So great, Hank. Good job. Mr. Strickland says, "What? You get the hell out of here, Hank. I'm getting squeezed by some insurance company, pencil stain, who claims working too long without a vacation can make you sloppy. And when you're sloppy in the propane biz, people die. And then my premiums go up." Yeah, that's the thing we're worried about. Hank says, sloppy. I challenge him to find one single mistake. And Mr. Strickland, just worried about paying more for his insurance, says, whoa, Hank, just take some time off. See you in 2 weeks. And he just walks out.
In 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Which is funny. It's funny that Hank, he doesn't know what to do. You know what I mean? What is Hank going to do with 2 weeks off of work? He doesn't even want to take 2 weeks off of work. If he told me to take 2 weeks off of work, I could find 2 weeks of stuff to do. But Hank, he's like, "No, I got to be at work. If somebody sees me not at work, they're going to think something's wrong with me."
Yeah, he literally says almost that here in just a second. He goes, he says to Buck before he leaves the room, "Couldn't I just take my vacation at my desk?" Well, that's not a vacation, Hank, but Buck just says no. Back at the Hill House, and we hear the Chicago song 25 or 6 to 4 playing in the background, and Peggy has some food in her hand. And she's just like, she's doing conducting. And Hank comes in and goes, "Teaching band today, are you? After the win substitute teacher this time, they might just rename it the Hill Trophy." She thinks that's the funniest thing because, of course, it's something that she can brag about. She goes, "I can't suggest that, Hank. You'd have to suggest that." So he's going to suggest that the trophy be renamed. Hank says, "Well, I sure do have the time. This whole not working thing is going to give me a heart attack. I tell you what, God, that would be embarrassing." He says, "Hank Hill found dead not working." So yeah, almost exactly what you said. Yeah,
exactly. Shout out to Artie. Artie references that one a lot.
Yeah, that's a great one. Peggy is getting the toast out with the tongs she was conducting with, and the thing that I noticed is she takes the toast out of the toaster and puts it directly into her bag, which I don't know if you know anything about toast, but that toast ain't gonna be good.
That's crumbly. It's gonna be a wad of crumbles.
That's not good. That toast is going.
Well, I'm not really like a big fan of lint and lipstick stains on my toast either. So toast. Like, my mom pulled out a piece of toast and handed it to me. There's no telling what's in this purse.
If you get lipstick stains on your toast, she says, "Well, I wish I could stay and help. Until they invent a machine that can stand in front of a band and keep time, I am needed." Is that not a metronome? I mean, that's all that is, right? The little thing that goes tick, 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 right?
Oh, yeah.
That's all that is. So there is something. Now we're with Hank. He's lost without being able to go to work. He doesn't know what to do. You see him in the garage. He looks around. Everything is organized already. He sighs. He looks at all of the stuff stacked up. He finally sees the rake on the wall. He goes outside and he figures he can rake his yard. Starts looking around. There's absolutely nothing in the grass. There's no leaves. There's no nothing.
Nothing to rake.
And so he pulls one of the leaves out of the tree and looks around a little bit and drops it on the ground and then starts raking it. It's funny because I kind of feel this way sometimes, right? Where I can go home and try to relax, and I get maybe an hour out of that, and then I got to be doing something. Something is going on. I got to get up. I got to go with that. Something back and forth. So
that must be an old man thing.
Oh man,
like, I could literally sit in one spot for probably like 12 hours and never move if that was what I needed to do.
Yeah, it's coming for you. Now we're in the alley with all four of them. We hear yep. And then as Bill's trying to say, yep, Hank interrupts, and because he's so antsy, like he's been alone all day, so he's just looking for people to talk to. He says, so what did you guys do? Any shaves today, Bill, or just haircuts? Bill starts to answer. He goes, oh, well, how's that new belt working out for you, Boomhauer? He starts to answer. He goes, Dale, you kill any bugs? Dale finally is like, no, I did not.
I did not.
He just didn't let him answer. And Bill pipes up and goes, yeah, I did. It fell in a big jar of blue stuff where I keep my combs. Dale says, was it a small like an ant or crafty like a fly? I'm not sure. Dale says fly. Dale says, I'd come by tomorrow to pick it up, but my plate's full. Situation with a termite, possibly more than one. This is an opportunity for Hank. Hank says, termites? Well, maybe you could use an extra set of hands. You go, wingo! But you got to chip in for gas and poison. Gas and poison.
And the funny thing is that Hank would, like, he would.
Oh, sure.
He is such an honorable man. He would give you a 20 for gas and another 20 for pitch in for the poison.
It makes me wonder, though. I mean, what's Dale doing if Hank doesn't come along? Does he just not use poison, or is he just?
Well, maybe he just uses a big boot. He wears like a boot that's like bigger than what he usually wears.
One of those big
duct
ponytail
tapes
things
it to his ankle.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Now we're at the tented house. I'm assuming this is the next day. This tented house, if anybody's ever watched Breaking Bad, I can never think of never see a tented house and not think of that part of Breaking Bad where they tent the house and they make the meth inside. Spoiler alert, I'm so sorry. They're at the tented house, and what I mean by that is it's being fumigated. So the whole house is covered in a striped tent, because you can't let any of the bug stuff out.
No, you can't.
And so Dale, in full bug killer mode, he says, here's the beauty of tenting. Ground zero is officially hot for a week. It takes 2 days to spray. The rest of the time, it's your own private playhouse. He goes, go on, take a spin on the bidet. Or did you think it was a water fountain? I did. so at some point, Dale drank out of the bidet.
Out of the bidet, yeah, where people wash their assholes. That's great.
Dale starts looking through the medicine cabinet. I mean, he does not care about invading somebody's privacy whatsoever. I mean, he just goes for it. Hank says, "I'm going home, Dale. I shouldn't even let myself sit on a stranger's toilet lid." Dale says, "Man, this guy's got bad eyesight." He's over there trying on the guy's freaking contacts, which Trying on somebody's glasses, I can see, but contacts, my God, that is gross.
That's how you get infections in your eye.
Oh, pink eye, please. All right, so Hank, he's finally getting to do something. He's going to pick up Bobby from school, and they're driving home. He goes, so tell me about your day. How was math? Bobby says, we were doing conversions on the overhead projector, and Miss Hosner erased her mistakes with spit. Like, that's the big point of Bobby's day. Hank says, oh, huh. Well, what'd you do before math? And Bobby says, that's my new favorite class, shop. And, of course, Hank's antennas just go straight up, right? He says, shop? Bobby, from now on, when I ask you how your day was, I mean, how was shop? Bobby says, oh, it's great. Our regular teacher eloped with the lunch lady, so until the two of them get back from Branson, Principal Moss is having us use shop as a study hall. We don't have to make anything. Hank is mortified. He's like, what? Hold on, son. And he pulls over to the side of the road and turns the car around. He goes, tell me again slowly, what happened to shop? Next thing we see, we're at the Hill House. Peggy is going through papers again, and she's just sighing. And Luann says to her, you look so tired, Aunt Peggy. It's not a pretty look. Well, that's an insult. Peggy says, well, there's no rest for a substitute teacher, Luann, except for 10 minutes every hour and 45 minutes for lunch. Well, shit, that's a lot of breaks.
That's a lot of
Luann says, oh, I'm a pre-education major. Maybe I could be a substitute teacher. Peggy thinks that's the funniest thing. She just starts laughing. She goes, oh, Luann, honey, I was not laughing at you. I was laughing at the idea. Same damn thing, shitty Peggy. It's the same damn thing.
Because that's all it is at that point is an idea. So
that's right.
Yeah, she's Peggy. That's another Peggy moment for you.
That is that shitty Peggy moment. Now we're at Tom Landry Middle School, and we see that there are letters missing. The T and the R have fallen off. So we get the pronunciation of this from Bobby here in just a second. And so we're in Principal Moss's office, and Principal Moss is saying, I'm sorry, Hank. School board will not authorize the funding for a substitute shop teacher. Heck, we can't even afford to fix a dent in the gym floor where the coach had his little fit. His little fit? What does that mean, where the coach had a little fit? Hank says, I remember a fella in my 8th grade shop class, pretty handy with a coping saw, nice guy. His name was Carl Moss. Whatever happened to him? And, of course, that is Principal Moss. He goes, got married, had kids, responsibilities, things change, Hank. Hank says, well, one thing hadn't changed. Kids need shop. Well, who's going to teach them, says Principal Moss. He says, only man handier with a coping saw than Carl Moss. Carl Moss says, Jack Shermer? Hank says, what? Jack was all flash. I coped circles around him. Me, I'll teach shop. I'll do it for free. Says, okay, Hank, but with your wife already a substitute teacher here, just keep the bitterness and the he said, she said out of my school. Hank says, we have a very good marriage.
The whole exchange right there between him and Carl Moss is hilarious to me because it's funny to think that like men in their 50s are sitting there talking about who was better in shop class.
Oh, absolutely.
When they were in junior high school.
Well,
I don't know. I just think I've heard these conversations before with people who are in trades and stuff like that. They're like, oh man, I worked with that one guy. Man, he could roof like a some bitch. And they're like, oh, he can do a whole roof in a day by himself. That kind of stuff. And it just reminds me of that. It's just so funny.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Texas thing, yeah.
We've talked about this before, though, too. It's these guys that peaked, and they're past their peak point, and all they can talk about is the stuff that happened in the past.
Where they peaked at, yeah.
Principal Moss says, then I don't want to catch you two making out in the teacher's lounge. Hank says, oh, you won't. Now, that is the first commercial break here on Bois, and it's also the first commercial break in this episode, and so we're going to take one, and we will be right back.
Right back.
Well, let me tell you, Rusty, eating healthy used to be a struggle for me, but that was before I discovered the BlendJet 2 portable blender.
The BlendJet 2.
Now when fast food temptation strikes, I just blend up a delicious and nutritious protein shaker smoothie. They gave us a whole bunch of those little packages that came with the blender.
Yeah.
And there's some really good flavors in there. I mean, there's some like that matcha thing.
The green matcha?
Yeah, those are pretty damn good. BlendJet 2 is portable, so you can blend up smoothies at work, a protein shake at the gym, or even a margarita on the beach. It's small enough to fit in a cup holder, but powerful enough to blast through ingredients like ice and frozen fruit with ease. Maybe a human thumb. Don't put your thumb in it. BlendJet 2 is whisper quiet, so you can make your morning smoothie without waking up the whole house. Lasts for 15-plus blends and recharges quickly via USB-C, which has saved us all. There's nothing worse than turning that USB thing over and over and over and over, and then finally finding how it plugs in, you know?
Oh, yeah, I don't like that
USB-C
either.
saved us- saved us
USB-C saved us all.
Best of all, BlendJet 2 cleans itself. Just blend water with a drop of soap and you're good to go. There's 30-plus colors and patterns to choose from. There's a BlendJet 2 to complement just about any style. We have a pink one? Lavender.
Pink one.
I think ours is lavender.
Mine is the Toy Story Aliens.
Oh,
It's
yeah?
like the Pizza Planet one.
Ooh, that one. Yeah. They've got some really cool colors, but I really like the patterns. I know one of the people here got one that looks like Woody the Sheriff.
Is there a code with them?
There is a code. What are you waiting for? Go to blendjet.com and grab yours today. Glab it today.
Glibbity glob.
And when you do glab it, make sure you use the promo code
BWAAA12.
That's to get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping. No other portable blender on the market comes close to the quality, power, and innovation of the BlendJet 2. They guarantee you'll love it or your money back. Blend anytime, anywhere with the BlendJet 2 portable blender. Go to blendjet.com and use the code
BWAAA12
to get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping. Shop today and get the best deal ever.
BlendJet 2, formerly known as BlendJet.
Hey, everyone. It's me, your puzzle-loving pal. Did you know I was a puzzle-loving pal?
I didn't know you were a puzzle-loving pal.
I got to tell you about my latest obsession. It's Wongo puzzles. These things are the real deal. They are high quality, handcrafted, and perfect for anyone who loves a good challenge but doesn't want to dedicate their entire kitchen table to puzzles for a week. Trust me, I have been there. I will tell you this, my parents, they're very old and decrepit, and they do puzzles all the damn time.
Yeah.
Like there's always a table that
What else
has
are
like
you
an
gonna do,
unfinished
right?
puzzle. Yeah, it's either that or I don't know.
Die.
Feel your bones. So these puzzles, these Wongo puzzles, they are 100% wooden. They'll last forever. Each piece is hand drawn. Just think about that for a second. Each piece is hand drawn, so no two pieces are the same, and you'll discover some fun whimsy pieces as you work through it.
Whimsy.
They come in a custom wooden box, which is perfect for storage and gifting. Before we started doing this, I didn't realize how many people I know already have these Wongo puzzles. I mean, they're apparently pretty.
You can't go wherever Juan go.
With stunning designs and unique shapes, Wongo puzzles are a cut above the rest. I loved doing the snow globe puzzle myself. It was great to pull out a puzzle and be done in a night and not have it on the table for a week. So what are you waiting for? Let's go to Wongo Puzzles, WONGO puzzles.com, and pick a puzzle today. And be sure to use the promo code
BWAAA
for 10% off your order. It's the most fun you'll have with a puzzle, guaranteed, or your money back. Go to WONGO puzzles.com and use your code
BWAAA
to get 10% off your order and get puzzling right now. And we're back. We are now with Hank and Peggy at the sink in the Hill House. They're doing some dishes. And Hank says, so should I have the students call me Mr. Hill or Hank? Peggy's like, oh, good Lord. And I thought I dodged a bullet when Lou Ann wanted to teach. Hank says, are you comparing me to Lou Ann? She says, Hank, sit down. She's going to explain being a teacher to him. Of course, she's just a substitute. She says, I'm going to do for you what at the beginning of my career I did for me. That's not the way shit works, Peggy, but okay.
That's not how it works.
She goes, I'm going to create a unified theory of education. Now, teaching can be divided into 7 spectras: the salutatory, the attendatory, the pedagogatory. Wait, let's see. How's it go? Wait, Sir Arnold prefers dining. Disciplinary. I don't know what the hell she's talking about. I was a teacher for a while, and I've never heard any of this. Now
I've heard of the unified theory of education,
Sure.
but I've never heard of the 7 spectras.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what she's talking about with the salutatory, the attendatory, the pedagogy. I'm not. She's saying words that I imagine that if you sat Peggy Hill down and asked her what the hell they mean,
oh sure,
she would have to pull out a dictionary, or she would give you a definition, but it would be super fucked off, and it wouldn't be anything to do with what she said.
Be completely wrong, yeah. I mean, we did hear a lot about pedagogy, and I get that, but I don't know what the hell salutatory and attendatory. I mean, attendance and salutation. I don't know. So we're now in Hank's class. He's written Mr. Hill on the board. The Mr. Shipley name plaque is still on the desk because, again, Hank is just a substitute. And by the way, I'm gonna say something here. I was a full-time substitute for about a year and a half before I started teaching, and I can't think of a job I hated worse. And
I can only imagine.
Well, the reason I say that is because you have zero power. As a teacher, you don't have a ton, but as a substitute, my God, it's just babysitting for the most part. Most teachers don't leave a lesson plan, which they're supposed to be required to do. I can remember subbing in a theater class. I have never taken theater in my life. I don't know what you're supposed to do in theater. We just sat in that big black box and stared at each other for a while. And so, being a sub.
You could have done an improv show. You could have done a whole improv show.
Well, now I think I would have them do a show, but back then, boy, I was in over my head.
What the hell am I doing?
Hank's sitting at that desk with the Mr. Shipley name plaque in front of him, and he says, which brings us to Sanitaria. He kind of looks around. He goes, everybody looks pretty clean. Guess we could empty the trash. So I guess she's talking about sanitation. Sanitaria is sanitation. He looks over at Bobby. Bobby gives him that wrap it up signal. And he said, he looks over and gets one of the kids to stand up. Clark gets Clark to stand up and gets his stool that he's been sitting on and puts it up on the workbench and starts taking a look at it because he's going to fix it. Because the stool keeps creaking and it's I guess it's unlevel. He goes, son, could you stand up a minute? And he stands up. He goes, and then he pulls out his multi-tool.
Leatherman.
Yeah, his Leatherman, his multi-tool, whatever. And he flicks it, right? And the thing goes boop. And all the kids are like, oh, cool, you know. Clark, of course, a lot of switchblade. He goes, no, it's a multi-tool, but it does have a saw. Susie, who I thought was Khan's daughter, but it's a girl that looks like her, named Susie, and we find that out later. She goes, what else does it have? He says, well, it has a file and a serrated sheep's foot blade, a lanyard ring, the usual. So a serrated sheep's foot blade is the usual now, I guess.
I guess I don't know what that even means.
He says, and for our purposes now, a Phillips head, which, I mean, that's handy. Clark says, hey, do that thing again. And he flicks it up like a switchblade again. He says, what, this? He says, hey, what were you kids working on before they made this a study hall? Joseph, of course, being in the class, says birdhouses. All the kids get out their very, very bad birdhouses and they put them up on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah. He says, okay. He gets down to Joseph's birdhouse and he goes, Joseph, I don't see any reason your father needs to find out about this. Like it's just like he caught him smoking cigarettes or something like that, right?
Yeah. This next joke is like the best. I think this is the best joke, I think maybe of the whole episode for me. This is my number one joke in the show, this next one for sure.
He looks at all the birdhouses and he's standing at the end of the table and he goes, birds can build their own houses. They're called nests, but I've never seen a bird build a boomerang or a dartboard. So all the kids are wowed by this. Like he's got project for them. It sounds cool. All the kids are talking very excitedly. He goes, okay, everyone, put on your goggles. So they all start putting on their goggles. He says, now remember, everybody, goggles may make you look cool. They do not. But they're also part of safety attire. And Bobby is just over there on his goggles, just poking himself in the eyeballs. Just proving to himself that goggles work, I guess. Now we're at the Hill House at the dinner table, and Hank says, I have this one student, kind of a troublemaker. He likes to leave his rabbit plane lying blade down, but a project like this mini foosball set might just turn him around. Wow. Peggy says, so can I assume that my lesson plan got an A, or is your highest grade an A+? He goes, well, actually, I was having a little trouble with the file cards, so, I kind of winged it. Peggy is taken back. She's like, winged it? He says, well, you professional teachers probably have a special term for it, but I just fell back on natural instinct. It might not have been a pretty win, but I'll take it. She goes, And again, I wrote on here, as far as my note, I said, shitty Peggy knows it all. So, yeah, she always knows better than everybody else.
Always.
Always. So we're back in shop class. Hank is looking at the lack of tools in the cabinet, and he goes, well, that's strange. We don't seem to have a bevel gauge. Again, I don't know what a bevel gauge is. And Bobby says, I'll bet you got more tools than the school does. Hank says, and I'll bet the cost benefit Yahoo, who decided this shop could do without a bevel gauge, has never even tried to test a bevel, much less a chamfer. Bobby says, yeah, that big Yahoo. he's just going along with him. Hank says,
riffing with him.
Hank says, that's looking good, Bobby. Just remember to clamp your butt joint. Bobby, of course, thinks this is the funniest thing he's ever heard when he hears the phrase butt joint. Hank says, oh, I get it. He goes, oh, I'm sorry, Dad. Because Bobby thinks that Hank gets the fact that he just said butt joint. Hank instead says, oh, no, it's okay. You're right. Joke's on me. You should use a miter joint here. That'll look better. And Bobby says, and he goes, butt joint? And that just cracks Bobby up again. He goes, right. He says, okay, son, now you're just rubbing it in. I don't understand how Hank doesn't know that the word butt is funny to a child. I mean, that's just.
I don't know. He's that slow, I guess. When it comes
right
to
over his head.
stuff.
Right over his head. Of course, I guess here in a second, he does find a bad word in the bathroom, and he's just all taken back by it. So, I guess that fits. Now we're in chemistry class. I love this. This is my favorite sight gag of the whole thing. Peggy says, when we take the rose out of the liquid nitrogen, it becomes as brittle and the most delicate crystal wine goblet. And then she pulls the rose out of the stuff, out of the liquid nitrogen. And we've all seen this before, where you freeze something and then it just shatters or whatever. So she assumes that the rose is going to shatter. She bangs it up against the table there, and it just goes thunk. Nothing happens to it.
Yeah, nothing happened. It was just frozen. Yeah.
And so the whole time she says this next sentence, she's still trying to break the damn flower. She goes, the exciting thing about the laws of nature is that, well, you never know what to expect. And she just chunks the rose, and you hear it go through a freaking window. It just dip it again, Peggy. Dip it again in the liquid nitrogen. It'll do it at some point. But anyway, she throws it through a window. Not sure who's paying for that window. Now we're back in shop class, and Hank is kind of he's monitoring the kids as they're all working. And what's amazing to me is that he does have them all working. There's no kids that are like, this sucks. He's just going around the room. Nice sanding, Joseph. Boy, this napkin holder is smooth enough to hold even the finest napkins. Your mom's going to love it. You see, this is why we do shop. And he's talking to everybody now. Not to be more popular or to get into college, but to sand and drill and chisel things for our moms. You see Peggy come in. She's in her chemistry class lab coat. And he says, oh, well, hey there, Peggy. Welcome to my classroom. She says, Hank, it's Mrs. Peggy Hill in front of the voters, or 2-time substitute of the year, Mrs. Hill. Yes, that sounds more natural. Didn't you hear the bell ring? In 2 minutes, these students will be tardy somewhere. She's just reading this riot act to Hank. She goes, didn't anyone show you how to fill out a hall pass? He goes, no, but I made my own rubber hall pass stamp, and he picks that thing up and stamps a hall pass. She goes, Hank, what is going to happen when that falls into the wrong hands? Well, I guess you don't have a stamp for that answer, do you? So, again, shitty Peggy. Hank has done his best. He's got his class under control. He's got the kids actually giving a crap about what they're doing. He's made a rubber stamp so that he doesn't have to write it up each time. I mean, the dude's nothing if he's not efficient. You know, I mean, he's built this efficiency into his class, and she's just shitting all over it. Okay.
He's better than her at it.
He is, but I think you could put a poodle in there and it'd be better than she is at it. We're now in Principal Moss's office, and Hank is saying, say, Carl, I hope you don't mind. I jotted down some basic supplies we need in shop, and he hands him like a supply list. Principal Moss says, we don't have the money for all these fancy teaching aids, like wood.
That's such an admin thing, though. It's such a great joke for teaching administration.
He literally just throws the thing in the trash as soon as he says teaching aids like wood. Hank says, the Carl Moss I knew wouldn't, and he goes, give it a rest, Hank. All parents care about these days is zero tolerance, drug policies, and literacy. Why can't Johnny read? God, that gets old. He's the worst principal that's ever existed.
Yeah, he's pretty bad right now.
Hank says, but Carl, shop is the foundation of all learning. And I'll tell you what, a youngster with a tool in both hands has no hands left to do drugs. The principal has a point here, and he goes, they'll just put the tools down if they want to do the drugs bad enough, which that was always my problem with like DARE and all that other kind of stuff. You're teaching them.
Silly, yeah.
Oh, you're teaching them how to do drugs is basically all you're doing.
Yeah, you're teaching us what they look like. Like I didn't know what any of those drugs looked like until I was in a DARE program.
Exactly.
I had no clue what anything looked like, and then they showed it all to me, and I was like, oh, that looks a little interesting.
When I was teaching the high school, we went to a new school. I did 3 years in the old one, 1 year in the new one, and when we went into the new school, they canceled shop class. They took it away. And to be honest with you, south side of our town, a lot of blue collar workers, a lot of families, big families, folks that have started like lawn care businesses and small food trucks and all kinds of stuff, right? And these kids loved shop. I mean, they just loved it because they got to work with tools. It very much reminded me of these kids. They would.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of my shop class when we were kids, because I was in a weird thing, kind of like Bobby here in high school, where they couldn't keep a shop teacher.
Yeah.
The first shop teacher that we had was actually also a worship leader at a church. He was an older man. He was a musician, piano player, and stuff like that.
Sure.
And the kids just got to where they were too rowdy for him to deal with, so he quit. Well, we got a younger guy in, and whatever he had, it was whatever it was, that's what you needed to be a good shop teacher and to be able to wrangle all the kids up, because it was real weird. We had athletes in the class. We had like some musicians in the class. Like it was just like a smorgasbord of people that didn't want to go do, home ec or whatever.
Well, the problem is with classes like shop, home ec, I taught rockets and I taught robots and computer programming and stuff like that. And those kind of classes, unfortunately, just end up being dumping grounds for all the kids. So if you don't have something that period, throw them in shop, that kind of thing. And so to me, that was the demise of the entire program. The fact that you didn't put kids in it that were actually interested in it. You also threw in, well, let's get all these kids that are interested in it, and let's throw in 10 athletes who don't give a crap. That should be fine. It's not. But because it's not state tested, they didn't care.
Yeah. And that's the true mark of a good educator is when they can go into situations like that and still make learning fun for everybody that doesn't want to be in there. Because that's how it ended up being in that shop class. By the end of the year, everybody was like, you walked in, everybody was doing everything as they were supposed to. Everybody was engaged and interested. And I don't know, that's what I really liked. But I had a good experience and a bad experience all in the same, 2 or 3 years of shop. By the end of it all, like my senior year, that last shop class I took, it was really, really good. Well, I think all kids should have that available to them. I don't know how much access kids have to that now in public schools. Yeah. I know some do, some don't. We're in Texas, so it's heavy on ag and stuff like that. Yeah. So we have a lot more stuff like that available. But I hope nationwide they have more stuff like that available. They need to start having more vocational stuff in schools so kids have different choices, because some kids they're not cerebral. They're not academic. They are hands-on. So,
and I'll tell you what the secret is to teaching a class. And it's any class you want to talk about, whether it's math, whether it's shop, whether it's art, whether it's rockets. If you don't have a relationship with those kids, they don't care.
For sure.
They get enough of that in their life where they don't have these regular relationships with adults. Adults are seen as the people who yell at them. Adults are seen as the people who leave. And so if you don't figure out what these kids are actually about, you've already lost the first day you walk in there.
Yeah, that could be just something as simple as asking these kids how their day is, because some of these kids go weeks without anybody taking an interest in anything. It could be something like a pencil drawing on one of their papers that they turn in. You're like, oh, I saw that drawing you did. Instead, because I was a kid that used to draw all over my papers, and teachers used to hand me my paperwork, and they were like, I'm going to need you to redo this on a clean sheet. And I feel like that was an opportunity to connect with me, was that there's so many opportunities for teachers to connect with their students, and I think they just throw them out the window a lot of the times. Not all teachers, but it's just the state mandated test stuff. They got to get rid of that, and I think it'll all be fine.
I absolutely agree with that, and I think there should be differences in each state. Like, not all states are big ranch states. Not all states are big industrial states or whatever, right? And so the education should be tailored to fit the kids that are going to work in that region or that state or whatever, or go on to do something else. But anyway, that's a soapbox we didn't need to get on. All right, so we are back in shop class, and Bobby says Joseph must have used the last piece of maple for his napkin holder, because they look in the big box where the wood's supposed to be, and there's only like 3 pieces in there, and they're all already sawed up, and they're all in some sort of weird shape. Hank says, I wonder if it was like this teaching shop during World War II. And I love this from Bobby. He doesn't miss a beat. He goes, I don't know. He just doesn't know. Hank says, you know what helped us win that war? People here at home made do with what they had. Like when Clark's chair was squeaking, we all pitched in and fixed it. And that's exactly what we're going to do now. This school is one big project waiting to be fixed. And this is a good approach by him. He goes,
it's an amazing approach. I think that every school, this type of program right here should be implemented in every school.
So I had sorry to go off on another tangent, but
no, you're good.
When I was teaching robots, they also wanted me to take on kind of a computer class, because I used to build computers and program them and all that stuff. And so I looked at it as like a Geek Squad class. So we would get together and we would talk about basic like computer principles and stuff like that. And then I had this program where they could learn how to hook things up and unhook them and build things. And then in the second half of the class, second half of the year, we would actually go around in the school and fix the printers and, set things up, make network cables, all that kind of stuff. So that was kind of cool. Awesome. And I mean, the kids actually learned something. So if nothing else, they learned.
That's the thing with a lot of learning too. Like, not to go back on another soapbox, but it's just like some kids learn better when they're doing what they're learning instead of just reading about it.
100%.
Some kids can read and then go put it to practice easy, but some kids can't. They can't read it and then go do it. They just got to do it, and they got to learn through trial and error. And I think these types of programs inside of schools where the kids are fixing the school or the kids are fixing the network or whatever it is, whether it be like, shop type stuff like fixing doors and stuff, because there's so much stuff in a day that they could do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of throwing away stuff, because I see schools throw stuff away all the time. They'll get funding for the new year, and they're like, well, let's just throw it in the trash instead of recycling it or upcycling it or repairing it and reusing it, kind of thing. And I think that'd be a good thing for kids. Yeah,
we had closets just full of technology that wasn't being used.
It happens.
Oh my gosh!
I actually. Since my wife's a teacher or whatever, I try to get as much old technology as I can. You know how many Reading Rainbow VHS tapes
I bet. Yeah.
I have like the whole Reading Rainbow on VHS.
I would imagine. Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
So he says again, he goes, this school is one big project waiting to be fixed. Anyone notice that broken window in the chemistry class? We could all bring some tools from home, fix that window, or we could rehang the letters that blew off the school last winter. And again, here it is. Here's the reference to the letters being off. And Bobby goes, and no one's going to make fun of us for going to Tom Landry Middle School no more. And so the T and the R fell off. They're now in the bathroom. They're fixing everything that's going on in there. And kids are working like crazy. Hank goes into one of the stalls and he goes, oh, here I sit brokenhearted. I came to, he goes, who brought a cordless sander? And Bobby comes in, I'm on it. And so he's sanding off the, here I sit brokenhearted, came to shit but only farted. So
that's a good one. I like that one. Yeah.
Now Hank and Peggy are leaving school. They're both in the car. What was odd to me is that Peggy's driving. I would have thought Hank would be one of those guys that always gets in the driver's seat, whether it's his car, his wife's car, or whatever. But yeah. I guess honestly, I do the same thing though. Like if we're going in my wife's car, she's driving, I don't really scoot over anything, but I normally drive most
like
of the time.
5,500 miles a month. So any chance I get to not drive, I will take it. I don't care who I'm riding with. I don't care if it's like on a pedal bike and they're pumping me on pegs, I will literally do anything other than drive if I don't have to.
Pumping you on pegs. I don't like that phrasing.
Yeah, I don't really like that one either.
So they're both leaving in the car, and they stop at the gate before they leave, and there's some kids over there kind of gathered around, and the girl says, "See you tomorrow," and she's waving, and Peggy, of course, thinks she's waving at her. Again, I've written shitty Peggy next to this, and she goes, "See you tomorrow, Mr. Hill. Remember, I called the drill press," and Hank's like, "Oh, okay, great." He goes, "Okay, then, Susie, you know, I think they might like me," he says to Peggy. "More important, though, I think they might like Shop." And Peggy says, "Well, that's just wonderful, Hank. But remember, just because they're liking it does not mean they're learning it."
That's not true.
It's
Come
so
on, Peggy.
shitty.
That's the number one
shitty.
thing about teaching kids is making it likable.
Yeah.
If they don't like it, they're not going to want to learn it. Yeah.
Another kid comes up to the car, and he's like, "Hey, Mr. Hill." And the final nail for Peggy here, she goes, "Oh, and P.S., watch out for the brown nosers." Peggy, you've not had a brown noser ever because nobody likes you. I think she wins her. I think she wins her trophies by default. You know, I think that all the other substitutes are probably so bad that Peggy kind of rises to the top on it. You know, that's from watching this. Oh,
Killed her, yeah.
All right, so now we're in history class. And Peggy says, if history teaches us anything, that an informal pre-election vote or straw poll favors the proven winner or the incumbent. For our substitute teacher of the year straw poll, the incumbent would be me, Mrs. Peggy with a Y Hill. Why should a straw poll favor the incumbent? Good question. Nobody asked, Peggy. My theory is voting for a winner is a way to make you feel more popular, too. And then she says, okay, now pass your ballots forward so Sean can count them. So she's literally having kids vote for her during class, which is insane.
Yeah, really insane.
The kids are looking out the window, and they see Hank and his class. They're welding those letters back on. I mean, he's gotten to the point where he's taught them how to freaking weld things to.
Yeah, that's what they're doing, welds. Yeah.
And so she comes over and she closes the curtain. She goes, well, if possibly burning our retinas is cool, then yes, cool. Okay, thank you, Sean. Now I will announce the results. And she's counting all the votes. She goes, 3 votes for Laura Croft, whoever the heck that is, and that's Tomb Raider.
Tomb Raider. Yeah, Laura Croft is from Tomb Raider. For those of you who don't know, Tomb Raider is a PlayStation 1 game that came out in the early 90s. And it was pretty revolutionary at the time because it was like a 3D world that you could actually move around in. And it was the beginning of 3D worlds. And it was just, I don't know, really immersive. But I think the number one thing that everybody as young boys were really interested in was her breasts.
Her pointy breasts.
Their big selling point in that video game was she was a scantily clad female who was a Tomb Raider, kind of like Indiana Jones type
jumping
character.
From rock to rock and all that kind of stuff. Yep.
With guns.
And big breasts.
Yeah, no whip, no fedora, just guns, a ponytail, and then they picked the hottest human being to play her at that time for young boys, Angelina Jolie. Yeah. They picked her to play the character in the movie. So
she made 2 of those, right? And then they rebooted it with another girl later.
They made 3, I believe, with Angelina Jolie. Wow. I think. No, they might have been just 2.
I think it's 2, and then there's the reboot. They made a couple of them,
and then they had the reboot.
Yeah.
Either way,
great.
Like critically acclaimed video game series.
I remember when the reboot came out, people were like, oh, well, I hope she doesn't have giant boobs or whatever. You know, like it had gotten to the point where they were like, that can't be the feature, you know, in this thing.
Yeah. Well, I remember that was one of the selling points of the game when the graphics had gotten better for the PlayStation 2 version is that she now has boobs that jiggle. You know what I mean?
When it first came out, man, everything was pointed. You know, it was there were a lot of
PS1,
right angles.
She was pointed, but whenever they came out with the PS2 version, they rounded her off.
Oh, sure.
And then they gave her the real physics too. So it got silly. Yeah, it got real silly.
All right, she says 3 votes for Laura Croft, whoever the heck that is. 4 votes undecided. Okay, 4 votes for Mrs. Peggy Hill. I thank you. And then she goes, and 7 votes for Mr. Hank Hill. She's floored by this. She doesn't one, she doesn't want to be beat, and 2, to get beat by her own husband. That's a whole different thing here. She doesn't want anybody having the limelight but her, right?
That's it. Well, yeah, not only anybody having the limelight than her, but I think it's more of a family battle thing here, is that this is the thing that Peggy is good at.
Yeah, it's her domain. Yeah.
and Hank is good at anything that he does. So for him to come into her world
Sep emotions.
and be better at her than her at her game, yeah, it's man, I'm surprised that the house doesn't burn down in flames when they go home. You know what I mean? Like a lot of heat and contention on that point.
Well, the funny thing is the next thing that happens is she tries to get Bobby on her side. We're back at the Hill house, and we see Bobby in his room reading Teen People. And she bursts into his room and he goes, I don't have any math homework. I'm honest. He puts the magazine down. She goes, walk with me, Bobby. And she shakes a fruit pie at him to get him to go with her. Now they're on a walk around the block, which is something we never see any of these characters do. They don't go on a lot of walks.
This is showing the depths of Peggy's shittiness.
Oh, absolutely.
This particular scene right here is showing the depths that she will go. She will go. If you think that Peggy has gone low, Peggy will go even lower.
Peggy will go all the way under the floor.
Children. Yeah, parents pitting their children against one another that's like dirt floor, like underneath. That's like 6 feet from the edge kind of thing. Like she's down there.
I love the way Bobby talks to her here, though, too. She goes, as they're going on this weird walk around the block, she goes, oh, I don't understand. I mean, most of the students who want to vote for him didn't even take shop. And Bobby says, well, Dad has a very good buzz. She says, and what's the word on me? He goes, I think you're seen as more of an insider, one of them, a suit. They play, you dance. She goes, got it. Gives him the pie, and then she just walks away, just leaves him wherever the hell they were walking. She just leaves him, gives him a fruit pie, and takes off. We're back at shop class. Hank says, okay. He's sitting at his desk, and kids are coming up to him. He goes, okay, if the locker room's all regrouted, why don't you go to the cafeteria and work on those dimmer switches? And then Clark comes in, and he's like, Mr. Hill, come quick. Something's happened to Bobby. They go running down the hall. They see Principal Moss and Bobby standing in the hall. He goes, Hank, I caught your boy carrying these chisels and screwdrivers and this toothy, pointy thing. Hank says, keyhole saw. They're tools, Carl. You used to know that. He goes, well, maybe, but according to the school board's zero tolerance policy, anything that can be used as a weapon is a weapon. Hank says, well, that's just asinine. He says, my hands are tied. If I showed even a little bit of tolerance, we couldn't call it zero tolerance. I love that. I love
that too. I also love Hank's use of the word asinine. I wonder, this is for you, Artie. I want you to go through 13 seasons of King of the Hill, and I want you to tell me how many times Hank says the word asinine. It has to be over 10.
You think so?
It has to be over 10.
He does,
because it's just one of those. Yeah. It's one of those words that when I hear Hank say it, I'm like, oh, I've heard you say this. Like, it's just a word he seems to use a lot.
Hank has to get to a point where he's like, well, this is just the most ridiculous thing in the world, and that's when he says asinine. Usually,
this is just asinine. Once it's got to the point where it can't go any further, it becomes asinine.
Sure. Yeah. He's even if I showed a little bit of tolerance, we couldn't call it zero tolerance. I'm sorry, Hank. I'm going to have to suspend your boy. Hank says, well, he didn't do anything wrong. I told all of my students to bring tools in. He goes, oh, well, that cuts down on the paperwork. I'm going to have to suspend you. Emily, and I love Emily. I wish we would see Emily more. He says, Emily, escort. She needs her
own show.
Oh, my God.
We need a show with Emily. Just Emily.
I don't even need Emily talking or anything. I just need Emily escorting people to and fro, kicking people out of the building, wearing her hall monitor sash, the whole thing. He goes, Emily, escort Mr. Hill off school grounds. Emily comes.
That's something. That should be merchandise for the show. We should have hall monitor sashes to sell.
And then a little name tag says Emily right there.
And a little name tag, yeah.
He says, escort Mr. Hill off school grounds. Emily comes in and he goes, don't you touch me, says Hank, and he just throws his apron down. And that is the second commercial break in this episode, and we will take our second one here, and we'll be right back. Hey, Rusty, did you know that you could be putting oil and chemicals in your coffee?
No, I didn't know that.
I mean, I love coffee creamer, but I don't think I've ever turned a bottle around to actually see what's inside. You know, recently I did, and I found out many of my favorite creamers, like especially the one my wife used to use, they contain ingredients I would never intentionally add to my coffee cup, like canola oil, potassium phosphate, whatever
Sounds
that is.
terrible.
Artificial flavors. I can't take artificial flavors a lot of the time.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm
A lot
good
of
on
them
any
just
flavoring.
They taste
I
gross.
don't like flavors in my coffee. I like the earth and flavor of coffee.
I mean, I love coffee. Don't get me wrong. I do love it. I just I don't like all that crap in my coffee, right?
Yeah, no, who does that?
So let me tell you about Laird Superfoods then. They have better ingredients, amazing taste, and functional benefits. Laird Superfood Creamers are crafted from the highest quality, all-natural, real food ingredients. All Laird products are sustainably sourced and thoroughly tested to ensure that you're incorporating the cleanest, finest fuel into your routine. Now, they're all natural. They've got whole food ingredients. They contain naturally occurring MCTs from coconut oil, and everybody tells you coconut oil is good for you. Mm-hmm. There's no artificial flavors, no colors, no additives, no sugar from highly refined corn syrup. So that's a big deal right there. If you take one thing you do every day and make it better, Laird developed his creamer himself to stay powered for a day on the waves. He was a big wave surfer, Laird Hamilton was, and he needed a morning fuel that could allow him to spend the entire day chasing the ultimate wave. So he made this creamer, and it is it's crazy, crazy good. Laird sources high-quality plant-based ingredients globally and puts an emphasis on U.S. sources whenever possible. They aim to source responsibly and sustainably and believe that the food you consume should be as good for the earth as they are for you. They have honest and transparent products and labels. If you try it, you won't go back. They have functional superfood creamers, instant lattes, and prebiotic greens. They have a variety of snacks and supplements full of wholesome plant-based ingredients to keep you charged for wherever life takes you. So to get a deal on Laird Superfoods, I need you to go to zen.ai BWAAA King of the Hill. So that's zen.ai/BWAAA King of the Hill. And your offer code there is BWAAA. So Laird Superfoods makes a better creamer that keeps you powered all day, and it's better for you, the earth, and your coffee. What do you say, Rusty? You want to go get some coffee?
Coffee.
Hey, Rusty.
Yeah.
Did you know that dehydration is the leading cause of daytime fatigue?
Oh, no.
I don't know about you, but like 2:30, 3 o'clock, I just hit a wall almost every day. I was shocked to learn that even mild dehydration can cause headaches, muscle weakness, brain fog, but luckily there's a cure.
Oh, there is?
Actually, I should have said there's a solution. It's called Cure. Cure Hydration. The Cure Hydration is an oral rehydration solution, or ORS, that contains the perfect balance of electrolytes. We know how important that is because plants crave it.
Super important.
And glucose to help your body absorb water and rehydrate quickly. The formula is made with all natural ingredients like coconut water, powder, and pink Himalayan salt. Whoopee. And it is free from artificial flavors, sweeteners, and preservatives. Cure Hydration is vegan, gluten-free, and non-GMO. That makes it a great option for anyone with dietary restrictions and preferences. The packets that they give you, they're convenient, they're easy to use. You just mix them with water and drink. They're perfect for on-the-go, travel, or anytime you need quick hydration. Hydration is more than just drinking water, Rusty. It is, that's what Lauren Picasso, a lifelong endurance athlete, discovered as she struggled to stay hydrated no matter how much water she drank. I've known people like that. My wife drinks so much water, it's crazy. Lauren found Cure, a science-backed electrolyte drink mix to make hydration easy for everyone. Cure believes that hydration should be simple and effective, but also clean and natural. That's why they only use the highest ingredients and quality plant-based stuff to avoid any artificial or harmful additives. They're committed to transparency and honesty. All of their ingredients are clearly listed on their website and packaging, and they're always happy to answer any questions or concerns. So are you ready to combat dehydration?
Absolutely.
You can try Cure today and feel the difference for yourself. Use your code
BWAAA. Sorry, I blanked.
You're good. For 20% off your order. Try Cure today and feel the difference for yourself. Use our special code
BWAAA
for 20% off your order. Your coupon will be activated at checkout. Try Cure Hydration. Stop drying out. All right, and we are back. We are back in the tented house with Dale and Hank, and they're both sitting in a giant tub in this house because the entire house is just a playground for Dale at this point. He just gets to do whatever the hell he wants. He goes, kicked out of work, kicked out of school. This is the worst vacation ever. And he looks at Dale and goes, bubbles. And Dale says, gotcha. And he turns on the damn bubbles in the tub. And so now they're both sitting in basically a jacuzzi. He goes, damn zero tolerance. Using a saw for a weapon makes about as much sense as using a gun to cut a 2x4. That's how my dad. It's a funny line, but the next two lines are better. He goes, that's how my dad built my tree house. And that's how he cleaned it too. So he cleaned his treehouse with a gun. Dale says, bureaucrats like Moss don't respond to reason, Hank. He takes his turban off, that he's taken a towel and wrapped it around his head. Mostly like you see a woman with long hair after she takes a shower or something and washes her hair. He's got this towel turban on. He takes the turban off and his hat's already on. So I don't really understand what was going on there, but he says bureaucrats like Moss don't respond to reason. Hank, let's toilet paper his yard. Hank says it's not just Moss; it's a whole dang school board. He goes, that's going to take a lot more TP. I think they keep it under the sink. Okay, good tip there, Dale. Now we're back in the garage. We've got a sad Hank. He's really got nothing to do now, and he's just farting around, and then. He looks down and there's a can, and I don't know if you have one of these. I know I have several of them. It's an old coffee can and it's full of screws, right? Yeah, you got one of those where you just got to collect all the screws and stuff? Because I don't know that I've ever thrown a screw away.
I don't think that my dad's ever thrown a coffee can away.
Yeah.
It's always this can hold something.
Oh, absolutely.
Like how much more things do you need to hold things?
That is
how many more things do you need to put inside of things to hold things?
That is something I have a problem with. Bobby comes running in. He goes, Dad, can we borrow your tools? And then Susie's with him. So are the rest of the kids. But, oh, by the way, he knocked that can over. One friggin' screw fell out. He put it back in and then sets it back up. Like he's just so bored that he's going through his screws. The rest of the kids come in and Joseph says, and we've got no place to put our napkins. He doesn't have a napkin holder. Hank says, well, okay, but you'll have to take turns. I only have 3 circular saws. 3 circular saws.
That's a lot for one man. What do you need 3 for?
You've only got 2 hands.
That's what I'm saying. You need 1 saw. The next one trips me out.
He goes,
you got a sander?
One of the students,
for everyone.
One of the students says, what about sanders? He goes, oh, I got enough sanders for everyone. All right, so we're back in the school, and we're in Peggy's class. Hank has been kicked out of school. He's been kicked out of work. He's got nothing to do, but Peggy is still attacking this. So she goes, by now, you've probably all heard about the suspension of popular shop teacher Mr. Hill and his disqualification for substitute teacher of the year. There's a big picture of Hank sitting on his riding lawnmower up on the blackboard. Girl pipes up and goes, that's so unfair. Dooley looks at her and goes, he lost his job. Peggy says, I could not agree more. And in protest, I, Peggy Hill, have decided to take my name off the ballot. Instead, I will run as Mrs. Hank Hill. Again, shitty Peggy. She knows she's not going to win, and so she labels herself as Mrs. Hank Hill, just so people will vote for her. We're back in Hank's garage. All the kids are just working on stuff. He looks down at one of the girls and goes, you might want to use a router instead of that power drill for your grease moat there. The girl, I'm assuming it's Susie, she says, can we do a whole unit on routers next week in class? Hank says, well, good idea, Susie, but it's not my class anymore. I could fight for reinstatement, but I got to get back to the propane game on Monday. The whole class just groans. They're just like, oh, because they've really grown to like him because A, he knows what the hell he's doing. B, he's let them do some really cool stuff. And C, he knows their names. He has built some sort of small relationship with these kids. He's invested in them at this point.
And not only that, he does something that's rare in teachers. And I saw a teacher get fired for doing this. and that was standing up for their kids.
That's true.
I watched the teacher getting to a shouting match with the principal because the principal had come into the classroom and was disrupting whatever was going on, and the teacher got pissed. And the teacher walked out in the hallway and was pretty much telling the principal that this is my classroom. I don't care if you're my boss or what. He said, I'm in charge of this class right now. You came in and you disrupted what was great learning, and kids were engaged and participating, and you fucked that up and ended up getting dismissed from the principal. Sat in the class the rest of the class period, sent the teacher home.
That is maybe he went about it the wrong way, but it is the right attitude to have.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was accumulation is what it was, is the reason why the teacher blew up. I think it was like it was more than one time. It was like the principal was almost picking at this teacher a little bit.
Well, and kids know when you're on their side too. Kids know that, just like adults do.
We know what
maybe even more so.
Don't. It's real easy to tell. Very, very easy for kids. Maybe even more so than adults. We know, like as a child, you know who cares about you because it's the teacher that when you walk into your classroom every day, they physically tell you, no, you can't enter my classroom until you tell me how your day is going. Yeah. I had a teacher like that. He was he's passed away now recently of cancer, but he was a geography teacher, and he would always stop every student. You couldn't even enter his class before he greeted you face to face. And he would tell you, and he would talk to you. He would use your name when he talked to you. He wouldn't just talk at you. He would say, hey, Rusty, how's your morning going? Yeah. He would never just be like, hey, how's your morning? He would always use your name, which always stuck with me.
As a teacher, and when you take those pedagogy training classes and stuff, they tell you to start your classes with bell ringers, and they tell you to teach from bell to bell, right? A bell ringer is something to kind of get the kids in the mood for whatever subject it is. So it'd be like an easy math problem or something like that whenever they walk into math class. I found, for me, it was much better to just ask them about their day, talk to them about anything I knew about them, whatever, for the first 5 minutes of class. My classes went so much smoother at that point because they know you give a shit. You're not just looking through them. You're not looking at your watch every 5 minutes going, okay, when is this 50 minutes up, Yeah,
when is it over?
All right, so anyway, all the kids groan when they realize that Hank's not coming back. He goes, but that shouldn't stop you from pursuing your own dreams of wood, plywood, pressed fiberboard, and if you've got the talent, metal. He says, you see, shop doesn't have to be a special place as long as it's well lit and the outlets are grounded, because shop is bigger than any classroom or garage or stupid policy that makes tools illegal. It's in our hearts. All right, let's sweep up. And he kind of tears up a little bit. Hank tears up a little bit there at the end. He's just, he believes in this stuff so passionately. Now, Hank is in the kitchen. He's washing his hands. I'm assuming all the kids have left at this point. They've been working. Peggy comes in and goes, honey, I called the school. They will let you back in on school grounds just for the awards ceremony. He goes, well, that's terrific. She goes, which I take as a very good indication of my chances. Now, let's go. So, again, shitty Peggy, she says this stuff to Hank. She does not even wait for his answer, and she's just like, let's get, because I got to win an award.
Yeah.
So final scene here. We're in the what I can assume is the cafetorium. There's the stage up front, and they're making some presentations and stuff. And Moss is the one up there behind the podium, and he goes, "Now, before we meet our new assistant swim coach, I'd like to announce the winner of this year's Substitute Teacher of the Year award, Mrs. Hank Hill." And of course, everybody is they're kind of excited, but they're not over the moon, right? They're just like, okay, great.
It's like watching the same people win the Waco Podcast Award year for year.
Sure.
You're like, oh,
sure.
I'm just kidding.
I got you. And Peggy comes up to the podium. She goes, "Oh, what? Oh, well, gosh, thank you. Who would have thought that I would win 3 years in a row?" And then she looks over at Hank, who's in the wings behind the curtain. She goes, "Honey, my speech." And so Hank starts taking the speech out to Peggy. He's got it in his pocket. And you hear the students in the audience go, "Look, it's Mr. Hill." And they just start applauding and cheering and stuff because they like him. They like him. Of course, Peggy thinks that's all for her. Even though it's been, like a minute since they announced her. She thinks that they're all cheering for her, and so she looks at Hank and goes, "Do you hear that, Hank? I fell out of a plane, and just 2 months later, I've landed on my feet." God damn, Hank. Hank is just like Hank is just like and she goes. She's saying this to everybody in the audience. She goes, "Gracias, I accept this behalf of everyone who has ever fallen out of a plane and lived to win her third straight Substitute Teacher of the Year award." I think that's one person. She goes, "I am king of the school. Woohoo!" And you just hear the microphone feedback, and we go to credits. And that is it. That's it. So Hank is a better teacher than Peggy, I think is what we get out of this.
Yeah, better teacher than Peggy. He might understand what pedagogy is all about better than anybody we ever see actually teach on this show.
I think if Hank sat down with a book that explained what pedagogy is, he would be the foremost expert on pedagogy. You know what I mean? He just seems like one of those guys. He's going to read that book front to cover or cover to back, and he'll know everything that's in that book.
Well, in his effort to not fail at things, because Hank doesn't like being bad at stuff, which is a good trait to have sometimes, is to not be bad at things and be okay with being bad.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it kind of played on too, in Hank's mentality of, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it and be the best at doing it.
That's right.
So I like that.
He doesn't.
I kind of like how they played on that in this episode.
He really doesn't do anything unless he thinks he can be the best at it. You know.
No, yeah, he doesn't at all. He doesn't even like doing things that he's not going to be good at.
We get the credits, and then of course at the end we hear Bobby go, "Yeah, the big Yahoo," like he said earlier. Hey, it's here. We are about to start a Patreon, and once we start our Patreon, I am going to make all of these notes available, all the highlight notes, all of my handwritten notes and stuff like that. So if you guys are interested in that, please check out our Patreon. We should have that started, I would say by July, it'll be ready to go. So probably in the next 3 weeks or so.
You have all the way up to season 1, episode 1 for your notes?
Yeah, I got all of them.
Oh,
yeah.
It's going to be interesting because I haven't even seen all that. So I get to see some stuff too.
Yeah, we've got all the notes. We've got extras. We've got a lot of stuff that we can put in there. You and I will start recording some extra content to throw into the Patreon, and so
do some travel stuff. I want to get down to San Marcos. Yeah. I got to contact the school. I don't know if they're going to let us do anything in the summer. We might have to wait till fall. Sure. I don't know what the access to their research stuff is in the summer.
It might be easier.
But I'm
going to
call down there. I'm going to call down there next week and talk to them and see if we can get something scheduled for maybe August or something like that. We can go down there.
Yeah. Well, that is it for this week. That is season 4, episode 4, Little Horrors of Shop. Rusty, you want to tell them where they can find us?
Well, right now you could find me out in the middle of nowhere. You could find us at bwaaakoth.com. That has all of our links there now. And that's where we're at. Don't forget to check out the animation conversation. If you would, please, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, it's a good one.
All you got to really do is Google it. I did really great with the SEO on it, and you could find us like right up top, 3rd or 4th,
That's
search.
Excellent.
On your search engine. So type in animation conversition. I'm not going to tell you anything else other than that because I want you to use Google. So this SEO, so the search engine starts to find me. And I should be like the 3rd or 4th response on there.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's Rusty and F.
F.
Famous storyboard animator.
Yeah, which F is... if any of you have watched Rick and Morty and you watched the season 1, episode 1 of Rick and Morty, he's the guy who storyboarded the pilot. I imagine more of our audience from this would know what Rick and Morty is before A Life of a Teenage Robot and all that.
Yeah.
But he also worked on South Park, Bigger, Longer, Uncut from 1999, as well as some of the first things he worked on. So, yeah, he's a real cool guy.
He's worked on a buttload of stuff. Yeah, tons and tons of stuff. Very respectable stuff. Not like stuff you've never heard of either. I mean, it's a ton of cool stuff.
Stuff that's like critically acclaimed. Invader Zim, Fairly Odd Parents, My Life as a Teenage Robot. But it's still, my mind is still, every time I think about it, it just blows my mind. So yeah, y'all stay tuned for that. And we're gonna do some collab stuff with Bois and the animation conversation too.
That'd be great
because it's all the same. I think we'll have a Bois animation conversation, have F on again since I am the host of both. Since I host both.
Yeah, sure.
That kind of thing. So I think that'd be fun.
Also, check out roguemedianetwork.com. We've got tons of shows. We've got new shows starting almost weekly now. We had a couple start this week. One is called Best Story Ever, which is a local guy. He gets people to come in and tell like the wildest stories that's ever happened to them. It's really interesting. It's fun to listen to. And then we also had one called The Podcast About Nothing, Seinfeld, yada, yada, yada. And it is Pete Sousa, our buddy, and he is guesting on Ali Kadlubar's podcast, and it's all about Seinfeld. Is
it already out in the air? Is
yeah.
it already on the air?
Yeah, the trailer's out, and episode 1. Episode 2 will come out this next week. But they are using our same format where they take it and they go line by line and just talk about each episode of Seinfeld. So
were they able to locate the scripts for Seinfeld pretty easy?
Yeah. She
I was
found
fixing
everything.
to say the website that we used at Springfield has
tons
movies.
Yeah.
It's just
tons of stuff.
The amount of scripts that whatever autistic guy runs that website. There's an insane amount of scripts. I didn't realize that. When I was looking for it today, because I don't have my handy dandy King of the Hill tablet here from Amazon.
Yeah.
Doesn't have all my Chrome stuff because Amazon has their own proprietary browser.
Yeah.
So I had to go look for it, like actually look for it again. And I didn't realize they had that much stuff. Yeah. Crazy.
This has nothing to do with the show, but I saw a thing yesterday where Amazon is going to start offering cell service.
I heard that too. Because Google already does it.
Yeah.
Google already offers cell service, so now Amazon is. I also saw another thing that doesn't pertain to the show. They're putting a Hawaiian cultural icon. I don't want to butcher her name, so I'm not going to say her name or attempt to, but her name is Edith, Hawaiian last name, and they're putting her on the quarter. So it'll be the first Hawaiian cultural icon on a quarter since, we did go over there and let a fruit company steal Hawaiian from the natives. So
the Chiquita Banana Company? Are you talking about Dole?
No, pineapple. Dole. It was Dole. It was the pineapples. Yeah, it was Dole because pineapples aren't even native to Hawaii. They took them to Hawaii because they would grow good there.
Remind me sometime to tell you the Chiquita Banana Hank Williams III story.
That's got to be a good one.
It's a good story. All right, guys. Well, thank you again for joining us. Please check us out at bwaakoth.com, and we'll see you next time.
Wimatanye.
Wimatanye, indeed. This has been a Rogue Media Network production.